Vladimir Putin has been sworn in for his fourth term as Russian president during his inauguration at the Grand Kremlin Palace. In a speech after his swearing in, Putin vowed to boost the country's economy, enhance people's livelihoods and keep Russia at the fore of key international issues. His inauguration came 2 months after a landslide presidential election victory.
Russia is a strong, active and influential participant on the world stage. We will provide our security and defense capabilities to the world. We will continue to pay necessary and constant attention to these issues in the future. But now we must use the opportunities that are available to us. First of all, to meet the most essential development goals at home, for economic and technological breakthroughs, for raising our competitiveness in those spheres which will determine our future. A person's quality of life, well-being, security and health are the most important.
Meanwhile, Putin has named 52-year-old Dmitry Medvedev as prime minister. However, this appointment still needs to be approved by the lower house of parliament. Well, let's get more on this. Julia Lyubova now joins us in Moscow. Very welcome to the show, Julia. Now, as we heard there, Putin is promising economic and technological breakthroughs in the country going forward. Are Russians expecting to see any major changes in his presidency this time around?
Yes, indeed. So Vladimir Putin, in his inauguration speech here, vowed to improve the lives of ordinary Russians, and of course that's what people here are hoping for. Vladimir Putin promised to serve the Russian people, to safeguard rights and freedoms and protect Russia's sovereignty. To improve the Russian economy, that's been Vladimir Putin's election promise, and during his State of the Nation address earlier this year, he promised to raise the standards of living for Russians, to make housing affordable and to help those in need. Millions of people in Russia live below poverty line, and certainly many people here are hoping for changes and improvements.
Well, Julia, I'm sure a question many people in Russia are asking is how exactly he plans to get growth up in the country and the economy back into high gear, given, of course, the fact that sanctions from the West have impacted the economy.
Yes, indeed. So all of these promises, election campaigns and speeches where Vladimir Putin has promised to make lives and conditions better for people in Russia. But the question is just how is he actually going to do this? Of course, the Russian economy has been hit very hard because of low oil prices and of Western sanctions over Russia's actions in Ukraine, and also of alleged interference in the US presidential election. So indeed, it will be a mammoth task for Vladimir Putin and the government to get the Russian economy back on track. Indeed, it will be a huge challenge for them, not only to control inflation, but also to control the ruble value, which has recently lost about 15% of its value against the dollar due to more US sanctions.
Now, of course, we'll get more answers on that when he announces his economic goals, of course, in a decree to be signed quite soon. So what do you expect to see? Are we going to see a big boost in spending from the government or higher taxes for the people?
Well, indeed, those measures from the government are yet to be unveiled, and indeed we'll have to wait and see exactly what they decide to do. But there are some rumors that an income tax in Russia might rise from 13% to about 15% in order to get some money into the budget. Also, there might be some cuts to the public sector. Of course, the Russian economy does need some funds quite desperately because the oil prices and Russia's economy depends very much on the price of oil. Well, those prices are not rising as fast as Russia might be hoping for. So indeed, and you have to be careful that those measures are popular among the public as well. So indeed, the new government, which has been formed right now, will be working on those measures in the next few months.
Now, give us a sense of the support Putin currently has in the country. We did see protesters there taking to the streets. A lot of them were arrested this weekend, and we know they were protesting against his rule. So why, give us a sense of what the unrest is about.
Yes, indeed. Thousands of people took to the streets of cities across Russia to protest against Vladimir Putin just a few days before his inauguration. This was just this weekend. And in Moscow, Alexei Navalny, a popular opposition leader, he led the protest in Moscow, and he was promptly arrested as soon as he turned up to that protest. And of course, hundreds of other people were arrested because that protest wasn't authorized by the Moscow City Hall. Well, those protesters, those activists, they accused Vladimir Putin of corruption. The slogan for that protest was "He is not our Tsar," and of course, Tsar is the name for a Russian emperor. And so those people, those activists, they accused Vladimir Putin of being in power of Russia for way too long. And of course, he's already been in charge of Russia for 18 years, either as president or as prime minister. And he's now just been inaugurated for another 6 years in his 4th term. So by the end of it, he would have been in charge of Russia for almost a quarter of a century. And those people, those protesters, they say they don't want that. They want to see some changes in Russian politics.
Well, many thanks for that update, Julia. Of course, Julia Lyubova joining us there in Moscow.